we're up amongst the peas, and we're going to look at growing peas for seed saving and then saving your own peas from those peas. So these are called fill the bucket. They're quite a small pea, as you can see. They only come up to about 4 foot high, or 1.2 metres. And they're in full flush now of productivity. You can see all these beautiful fat pods of peas, absolutely delicious peas. In fact, let's pick one and have a look at them so you can see. They're just developing here. We're growing for seed. It's really just the same as growing a crop of peas that you'd want to eat yourself. So these peas were sown around the very beginning of March in a module tray like this. So this is what we call a 96 because it has 96 module. They were sown indoors under cover the 3rd of March, I think. And then from this, they were put outside in the trays to harden off a bit and get used to the colder temperatures, just on a table. And then they were actually planted out in the ground here in the beds, in the garden at the very end of March. Peas are very hardy on the whole, so even if there's going to be cold weather, frost, lots of rain, they can usually survive themselves quite well outside. And on top of this, we actually put this layer of straw mulch that you can see here, because peas really like to have plenty of moisture to grow really well and to produce good fat peas. And so actually putting the mulch on, especially when the soil is quite wet and moist, that will help to retain that moisture throughout the growing cycle of the pea. Because they're quite a small pea, you know, they don't grow up very, very tall, about 1.2 metres. They didn't need a huge amount of fencing, so you can see here we've just got chicken wire, and here they're both the same peas, and a few bamboo poles that are keeping the chicken wire up. The way we've done the peas in a kind of wavy pattern means that you can fit more onto the bed just by creating those shapes, and it looks very lovely as well. So we're now in the middle of July and the peas have grown away. If we had been wanting to eat the peas and use them as a crop, we'd have been picking them for about the last month now. But we haven't actually here. We've been just saving all the peas because we are growing them primarily for seed. Every single pea is here. We even have little signs on the bed saying, please do not pick the peas, because we want them to actually continue on growing so that we can harvest seed from them. And it's at this time of year in July, we're just kind of on the beginning of the seed saving part of the cycle of the peas. So like I say, you know, you've got these peas here that are just ripe and ready to eat. We've got a few flat ones that are still just going to be ripening off in the next month or so. But if we look right down at the bottom here, at the ground level, which would be the first peas to start ripening, these are starting to dry off now. They're actually in different stages of maturity. So there's one here that's still quite green, but it's really wrinkled. You wouldn't really want to eat this at this stage. It would be quite starchy. It would have lost the sweetness that we kind of associate with a nice pea. The peas are really big and fat. They'd be okay for cooking, but this is kind of the first phase towards being a mature pea, you know, a pea that's going to be stored and saved. There's another one here, very similar, and another one here. Two right at the bottom. So this one is very, very dry now. It's almost like parchment, the skin. It's not quite dry enough. We would still leave that a little bit longer for seed saving, so it'll be another maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Depends a little bit on the sunshine days that we get to dry them off. But this is kind of what we're looking for to get to the seed point. You can see the seeds are still quite green in there, but at this stage they'd be a little bit dry and very unpleasant to eat as such, you know, as a raw pea or even a cooked pea. This is the stage just before that, just a little bit dry. So you can see the three there together, kind of on the road to maturity. What we find with the seed is the best quality seed that you can harvest is when it's left for as long as possible on the plant, so that it can really, really ripen totally to the end of its life cycle on the plant. So anything like this, you know, although they kind of look almost ready to pick for seed, we would actually choose to leave those for as long as possible till they're really, really, really dried out on the plant, and then come along and pick them at that stage. So we've just got a good few crops growing for seed in this tunnel down here in the garden. And I here have a little handful of beans that are called Jack's beans, which always make me think of Jack and the Beanstalk, the story that everybody knows, that they're told to as a kid. And there's always that little bit of mystery why Jack, in the first place, swaps his family's cow for a handful of beans. But for me, there's a very important little moral in this story, in that if you have a cow, once you've eaten it, it's gone. If you have beans, you can grow the beans, harvest the beans, eat the beans, and save a few for seed, and those seed will last you for the next year. you can grow more beans, you can harvest seed, you can do that again next year, so you have beans for the next generations to come for all of your family. So it's like food forever. So it's kind of, you know, that just always reminds me of the longevity of what we're doing as seed savers, sort of holding these very special precious jewels in a way that we can keep for the generations that come after us. So here is in fact a runner bean, so the same species as these, and they're just starting to flower. You can see the beautiful flowers, and there's actually some beans here just coming as well. So this is the beautiful bicolour bean. Here we have broad beans, so they were planted early in the year, and these are actually beyond the point of when you would harvest them for eating, and they now seed, and you can see that they actually turn really black as they dry out. So this is perfect. There's nothing wrong with the plant, they're just dying back and drying out to create the seed that we will then save.
My name is Deirdre and I work here at Irish Seed Savers in the seed bank and the gardens. So we're here in Charlie Robinson's field and we're going to harvest some of our Daniel peas. So this is an Irish heritage variety, beautiful pea, and it's ready for harvest. Now, if you're saving peas at home, you can grow them and just eat them during the season as you need them, and then just leave some on each plant. And then you can harvest them, let them go dry as possible, and then on a nice, bright, sunny day like we have today, you can just come along and harvest them. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just having a look here, and you can see that there's some in different stages of maturity. So these ones up here are quite fresh, so the new growth at the top, and then these ones are starting to turn, but then we've got these lovely ones here which are really brown and crisp, and so I'm going to take those ones off. And this is a great cropper. There's been a huge amount of peas that we've already taken off, and this is going to produce so much seed. We could feed all of Ireland when we have all of these seeds potted, and it's a great way to just save a few of your own, and you have plenty then for next spring and to share with your friends. So when it comes to saving the seed from beans and peas, it's really very easy. We leave the pods on the plant for as long as possible to dry out, and then when they're really dry and crisp, we bring them in and we just leave them in their pods, and we put them on a tray and let them dry out so they're not touching, there's a lot of air going through, and that they dry. And then when they're nice and crisp, all we have to do is just take a pod and just crack it open. And there you can see the beautiful beans inside. These are a wonderful runner bean called Slovenian, and you can see they're lovely in cream and with brown speckles. And if you do find any that look a bit odd or are split, you can leave those aside, just opening them up. That's it. And after that, you can just put them on a tray and dry them further, just to make sure that they are really nice and dry before you store them. Give them a squeeze. If they're a little bit squidgy, then, you know, let them dry for another bit. You can do a little hammer test. So when they're nice and dry, just get a hammer, give it a bang. If they shatter nicely, then they're fully dry. And basically that's all that you need to do with peas and beans, broad beans, just regular peas, French beans, climbing beans, and you save your seed for next year. So when they're completely dry, pop them in an envelope, make sure you label them, and put them in a cool dry place, in a biscuit tin, in a cool dry room where there isn't fluctuating temperatures, and you're ready to sow your seeds for next year.